and thank you for joining our show. We're here from Safe Berks. My name is Francine Scaboria, and I'm the communications coordinator. And Safe Berks is a nonprofit in Reading. We serve survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault. And I'm very honored to interview today Dr. Kim Shively. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
I appreciate it.
And Kim is a professor of anthropology at Kutztown University. And I just wanted to start by asking you a little bit about your areas of teaching and research.
So I focus in on the anthropology of religion, and my specialty is the Middle East. I actually did my field research in the Middle East and Turkey, so I look at Islam. And for my dissertation research, I looked at the issue of veiling. In Turkey, it's very politicized, so that deals a lot with gender issues.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I'm looking more at some Muslim communities here in the United States and their activities here. So that's my focus. In terms of courses, I have taught Introduction to Women's Studies.
Wonderful.
But I teach a course called Genders Across Cultures. So we look at how gender is conceptualized in different cultures around the world. And then I just designed a course on women in religion. So those are my focuses.
Yeah, that is fascinating.
Thanks.
And it brings back memories to when I was a student at Penn State, and I was lucky to go to Egypt as an exchange student. And part of the reason I was intrigued to go, in addition to all the incredible things about Egypt and the history, but also to experience the differences in gender roles there too, which was very educational. So that's wonderful. And in terms of your the women's studies class that you teach, could you tell us a little bit about what you teach in a, say, introductory level women's studies class?
Well, because I am an anthropologist and a social scientist, I tend to do more of a social science orientation. Some people from the English department would do more of a literary approach. So I still look a lot at how people, especially how people in different cultures have thought about women's roles. What does it mean to be a woman? What do we think of as sort of natural qualities of women, whether that's based in reality or not? But also I look at the United States as well. Some of the issues here in the United States around sexual assault or sexual violence, around body image. I think that's something that especially college students really are very interested in. The ability to get ahead, becoming independent economically, politically, all these sorts of things. So I look at both, the world at large, but also focus in on issues that I think are important for our students here in the United States.
That's wonderful, wonderful. Do you find, and this may be too broad of a question, but that these issues of gender roles are thematic around the world, or are they very varied around the world?
There's certainly recurrent themes, especially around reproduction and sexuality, but you can always find something different. There's every time somebody says that, oh, all women are this way or all men are that way, you don't have to look very far to see that that's simply not the case.
Right.
So that's a good way for people to think about, well, what does it mean to be human? But obviously because of reproductive issues and sexuality issues, there are recurring themes about, in which women are often identified with motherhood, for instance. You find that in most cultures around the world. Or men are identified with some sort of social activities that tend to be valued more. Okay, that is a theme that recurs in many parts of the world. So there are themes, but there's also an incredible amount of variation.
Yeah.
And it's interesting when I teach, the students are often very invested in certain concepts of gender. What does it mean to be a woman? What does it mean to be a man? Or what does it mean to be homosexual? What does it mean to be heterosexual? They're very invested, and so it can be sometimes hard to have them think critically about their assumptions about being a woman, being a man, being gay, being straight, or all the other options there are, you know. So.
Yeah, you're doing this work at such a fascinating time, because it does seem, it seems to me, and I'd be curious how you feel, is that the younger generation, maybe the millennials, the gender roles are changing, maybe becoming less rigid.
Yeah, certainly, especially I think amongst college students who are sort of more engaged, socially engaged, they're better educated, and so I have certainly noticed that. I teach my Gender Across Cultures course every other year. And every time I teach it, there's like a whole new vocabulary that has developed and that I need to sort of incorporate into my class. The whole idea that, when I first started to teach this back in 2003, 2004, the idea that there were anything other than two genders was, for a lot of people, they had no idea, or even when it comes to transgender. I mean, people are aware of transgender, but, it's, in the United States, that's always been conceptualized as moving from one to the other. You still have two, and you're moving from one to the other.
Right.
Right. But the idea that you would have more than two, I think. Right. But, lately, when I teach, they're all comfortable, or I don't know, comfortable is the word, but they are all aware of this possibility, and many of them are very comfortable with the idea that there's something more than men and women out there in the world. So I have to update my vocabulary all the time. So
it's fascinating, and I'll just mention that one of the reasons that Safe Berks changed their name from Berks Women in Crisis is these issues we're talking about, that we wanted to make sure that people know, yes, we serve women and men and children, but we also serve anyone who would define themselves in any other way.
Right.
So we serve human beings, whatever they perceive their gender to be or not be. Right. That we are there for them.
Yeah, and it's been a very rapid change. I mean, it's been very interesting. It sort of hooks into the idea that same-sex marriage has become a possibility, when I think even a decade ago I didn't think probably it would have been possible that it would become the law of the land, you know. So.
And I did forget to mention in the beginning that the date this is being filmed is January 22nd, 2018. And part of the reason I want to say that is because we are in such a moment of a lot of change going on, and a lot of, whether you consider the change positive or negative, there's a lot of change. So I just wanted to put the date out there. And one thing I was curious asking you about is this word feminism, which was named the word of the year in 2017 by Merriam-Webster's, partly because of how many times it was looked up online. They pick a word every year, partly due to how many times people look on the computer for the definition of that word. And there was a resurgence in looking for that word, and I was wondering if you had any thoughts on that, or how the college students you teach may interact with that word feminist.
That's always an interesting question. That too has changed somewhat. I think there has been a time in the past where at least some people think of the word feminism and they think anti-man, anti-family, anti-children, and so I know that, many of us who have worked and sort of self-identify as feminists have said, no, I'm married, I have kids, or, I like children, I have no problem with men, that men can be feminists,
Right.
So, and I think the students are much more comfortable with that idea now, okay? Yeah. Whereas in the past, it was seen as anti-man. Now it's more, I think students understand it just means equal rights, equal opportunity, equal treatment for men and women, and everybody else.
Yes.
And it's not a mysterious or threatening thing.
Yeah.
So I have seen a change in the way students think about the word, and that I think they seem more comfortable with identifying as feminists.
That's very
than in the
interesting.
past.
And
Yeah.
I do want to bring up one more thing, and then we will wrap it up. And I know this could be its whole conversation on its own, but I did just want to mention that the Me Too campaign on social media has been a huge thing happening in the past few months, with millions of people around the world sharing their stories of sexual harassment or sexual assault. And I just wanted to know if this is being discussed in the college classes too, and on the college campus.
Yes, certainly. I think people are very much aware of the fact that there's been sort of a watershed moment when women are feeling empowered to stand up and identify what's going on and be public about it in a way that I think was really hard before, when people felt alone, when women felt alone and disempowered. And certainly college students, they think about this a lot. They think about this as a way, this is the way it should be, that we should be talking about these things. And we should be talking about them in the classroom as well. And I expect that in this coming semester, we'll be hearing even more about it as the movement continues.
Yes, I think you're right. And thank you so much for joining us today. And I wanted to say, if anyone out there is dealing with any issues related to domestic violence, sexual assault, or sexual harassment, please reach out to Safe Berks if you would like to. We are here to help. Our website is www.safeberks.org. And I want to thank, again, Dr. Kim Shively for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
For more information about Safe Berks, check out our website at www.safeberks.org.